All right, we are live. Got to make sure we get the Facebook groups in here. Got one, got two. All right. Got to make sure we get the green check mark so we are good to go. And we're waiting and waiting and waiting. There's one. There's two. We're good to go. Welcome in, everyone, for another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers. I am your host, Erick Trickel, and joining me, as always, is Lance Sanderson. Lance, I don't know about you, but this week has been utter chaos for me, and it's only going to continue. I hope you've had a good week. How you doing, man?
It's been utter chaos on my end as well. So doing what I do for my day job, I have been running like a chicken with my head cut off, which segue here. If you guys hear chirping behind me or on when I'm speaking, I have chickens, this little blue blanket behind me. There are chicks in there, and they are getting big enough to where they're starting to flap around and be a little bit loud. So I do apologize for that, but doing good, man. It's obviously great to be here on a Friday evening to talk some Denver Broncos football, have a little bit of fun, get away from real life for a little while. So I'm doing good, man. How's your mouth feeling?
Yeah, it's feeling better. I'm fortunate enough that I have a big enough mouth that I didn't have to have my wisdom teeth removed. They haven't caused me any issues until about last November when I ate something and it busted one of my wisdom teeth. And from from last November until just this past Monday, I was trying to get in for a dentist appointment, get something taken care of. I finally was able to. They ended up just pulling it, but it was still stuck in there pretty well. So they had to literally drill and bust it out of my mouth. I ended up never clotting and ended up having to go to the ER for it. I actually have a picture on my phone of my mouth filled with blood. I don't hurt. I'm still on a very limited diet because they don't want me to, especially with having gone to the ER, they don't want me to unsettle the clot and start bleeding again or anything like that. Because it was 5 hours of bleeding pretty badly before I went to the ER. But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm glad that it's finally taken care of. It's no longer a constant pain. It did bother me a little bit Wednesday morning, which is why I wasn't here for the show on Wednesday morning. Unfortunately. But hey, it is what it is. I'm here now. And I'm excited to get talking about this. We have a good topic today. Pro Football Focus. I know I question them a lot. I know a lot of people in the chat question them a lot, but they do help give us something to talk about. So we can be thankful for that a little bit here. But before we get into it, I want to just make one quick programming note. Next Friday, we will not be here. We are going to be taking the week off to spend the 4th of July with our families. And so for that, we wish everyone has a wonderful 4th of July and stay safe. Maybe since there's currently no show on Saturday, maybe we can talk to Chad about doing Saturday one instead of next Friday. But I'll have to reach out to Chad and see about that and whatnot. So maybe we get a special show of Dove Valley Divers next Saturday instead of next Friday. But we won't be here on Friday. Anyway, saying hello to some people in the chat. We have Ernie May saying Go Broncos Country Only, Bo Nix for 6 over on YouTube. And he also comes over and on Facebook and says Go Broncos Country Only, Go Bo Nix for 6. Hello, Eric and Lance. Hello, Ernie. Hope you are doing well. Hope you're able to handle our brief talk that wasn't about the Broncos, but we always got to get our little updates in. We have Chase Wallner saying, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is having a wonderful evening. Paul saying, Eric and Lance, good evening. Hope all is good on your end. It's getting better.
Doing good.
Paul also saying, Bo's floor is Alex Smith. His ceiling is Drew Brees. We're definitely going to get into that here a little bit. Eric Fun coming with some stars, but with nothing to say. Nothing to say. So thank you, Eric. We appreciate that. Hello from the Singapore airport on the way to Dubai.
What's up, Peter?
Hope you have fun in Dubai. Hope you have safe flight and safe travels. I'm glad you can join us, Peter. Paul saying DVDD bye week. Possibly. We'll talk to Chad and see what he says. David saying PFF stands for People Forget Football. Yeah, it's a bit tough because I like some of the staff they have over there, and it's unfortunate because they're making some questions about it. And then Roy Osborne says, guess where I'm going, guys? Lance, where are you going?
Roy is going to be at the Mile High Huddle meet and greet for the Broncos versus Giants game. He actually sent me a screenshot of the confirmation of him buying tickets. He's getting ready to package everything together so that he can do flights, hotel, all the whole 9 yards. So Roy is going to be there at the Mile High Huddle meet and greet, which I'm currently looking for tickets for me and my wife Samantha to be there as well. I'll be at the meet and greet. Not sure I'm going to be able to go to the game yet, but I will be at the meet and greet.
I'll have to hit you up about the game afterwards for a quick conversation about that, but don't want to get into it while we're live. But yeah, I'll be there. I know some other people of the staff are going to be there. I've heard from some people in the comment section, some people who are just unable to listen live that have joined in, afterwards and listening in on all the things, saying that they're going. It's always a fun time, always enjoyable. Going to be good to see you and meet you, Roy. But that's going to do it for that. Another quick announcement. We are going to have to keep it a little bit shorter tonight, only about half hour, so about 25 minutes left. My kiddo's birthday is on Sunday, and I still have to go do birthday shopping for her. So the wife and I, we're going to go do that. My mom's going to come over and watch her. So we just got to keep it a little bit shorter, so that way we can go and get to some stores before they close. Because even though it's Friday, some stores close early up here. Anyways, getting into this conversation, analyzing Bo Nix's floor and ceiling according to Pro Football Focus. All right. So in an article by John Costco at ProFootballFocus.com, he went through the ceilings and floors for every second-year quarterback. Now, we have a lot to say about the other quarterbacks that are on this list, but obviously this is a Denver Broncos show. We're going to keep it focused on Bo Nix. Now, he has Bo Nix, his ceiling being Drew Brees. That's pretty common. That's one that we've heard a lot going back to the pre-draft process. His floor is Mac Jones. I've got a couple comments on that, and we'll get to that in a second. But what Costco had to say was, and I quote, "Nick surprised many with his play as a rookie, considering most analysts viewed him as a second-round prospect in last year's draft. He proved to be a very capable starter who could execute Sean Payton's offense. His 73.8 PFF passing grade in 2024 wasn't spectacular by any means, but he displayed an ability to protect the football with a 1.8% turnover-worthy play rate, and his knack to avoid sacks carried over from college with a 12.9% pressure to sack rate. Nix doesn't have Drew Brees-like accuracy, who does really, but he's accurate enough and avoids sacks, which are two Brees traits that helped him have a Hall of Fame career. Considering Nix's low-end playmaking abilities, his floor is Mac Jones. In the end, though, he's likely to never hit that floor and should be a capable long-term starter." Now, Lance, I've made comments and slight comparisons of Drew Brees to Bo Nix, but in the aspect of, will Bo Nix follow that Mac Jones thing, have that great rookie year, and then fall off after that? I don't think that's the case, but that is just one of the things that I mention as something that we have to watch out for. Mac Jones had a great rookie season, then fell off a cliff. But I absolutely hate his floor being named as Mac Jones, and I hate it for one specific reason in the reasoning Costco gives. Considering Nix's low-end playmaking abilities, his floor is Mac Jones. Now, nothing screams that you haven't watched Bo Nix and you're just going off your Pro Football Focus numbers more than saying Nix has low-end playmaking abilities.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I have been labeled the Bo Nix hater here because I have been the guy that has been saying, watch out for the Mac Jones fall. Watch out for Bo Nix having that sophomore year slump. Let me see what's going to happen first. I'm optimistic about Bo Nix. I am very optimistic about the career arc that he's going to have. It's probably not Drew Brees level, but I could see an Alex Smith middle of the road, somewhere around that top 10, top 12 quarterback area. Not to like give a stylistic comparison, but like a Tua Tagovailoa, somewhere around like a Kirk Cousins style career arc, somewhere that you can win with a guy like that. But to say that the guy isn't a creative playmaker is completely off base. It's off-putting. It's like you said, you haven't watched enough Bo Nix. The guy makes way more plays with his legs than Mac Jones ever thought of. Mac Jones wasn't a terrible athlete coming out of Alabama, but he's not a play extender. He's not a play creator like that with his legs. And over the course of the season, you saw how many different times. Let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 4, the 26-yard run that he had for a first down to extend a drive multiple different times. Escaping the pocket, rolling to his right, hitting Cortland Sutton in the second and third window on a dig route or a crossing route to extend the play and create plays down the field. The Marvin Mims touchdown against the Cincinnati Bengals, where he rolled to his right, threw up a prayer, and Marvin Mims went up and made a gigantic catch to close the game, tie the game, send the game into overtime against the Cincinnati Bengals. To say that Bo Nix is not a creative playmaker just shows the incompetence of this. I don't want to say incompetence. That's not necessarily fair, but the lack of research to show that you didn't watch what Bo Nix was able to do for an entire 17-game schedule. because you saw it over and over and over again all throughout the season. Bo Nix can absolutely be a top-notch creator, not only throwing the football with his legs, but running the football with his legs. It's off base entirely, and it pisses me off, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, one of the issues that I have with Pro Football Focus is they use, and it's understandable to an extent, they rely so much on their own stats and their own data and their very subjective, questionable grades, which, yes, I got this comment a few weeks ago when I was talking about this. Yes, I know we use Pro Football Focus grades, but that's just because it's a quick resource and doesn't mean we still don't question their viability and their accuracy. Something that I do quite often. But Bo Nix is I don't want to say he's among the best, but he's probably top 12 at the very least in terms of their ability to use their legs. And I'm not meaning just as a pure runner. I'm also talking about their ability to move and maneuver in the pocket by escaping pressures and extending plays. There's still some work that Bo Nix can do and sticking in the pocket and maneuvering the pocket specifically, but his ability to sit there and avoid pressure and extend, use his legs, make a play. That's what I was getting at. Top 12. Mac Jones has never been that. No. He has never, even sticking in the pocket, doesn't have that subtle movement that we get out of like a Peyton Manning or that we got out of Tom Brady, where they'd make the subtle movements, the subtle adjustments, and avoid pressure. That was never Mac Jones's game. That's somewhere where Bo Nix still can improve on. And it's funny to me that when you see this, because it's very easy to prove that Bo Nix does have good playmaking ability that Mac Jones never did. And it starts with rushing yardage. Mac Jones has 437 career rushing yards, 4 seasons. Bo Nix almost got 500 in his rookie season. He's at 474 yards if you want to count the Buffalo Bills game.
Well,
if you don't even count the Buffalo Bills game, Bo Nix still, if I remember correctly, has more yards than Mac Jones does, and I think it's by 1. But anyways, it's right around the same at the very least.
Well, and like the big point here that I want to make is when you look at the Broncos rushing attack, which is a very questionable unit from this last season, Bo Nix was your second leading rusher as a quarterback. Like the guy has the ability to run the football. Like we cannot take that away from him. He may not be a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen or like any guy that's going to run the football. Russell Wilson even didn't run the football as well as Bo Nix did in his rookie season. Like seriously, this guy can tote the rock, and that's creative playmaking ability. They're not using him on zone reads and stuff, which I think they should use him this year on stuff like that, shotgun zone reads. But at the same time, when you can create plays and work behind the line of scrimmage, understand running lanes when nothing's open, take off and go and get 6, 7, 8 yards, Bo Nix is more than capable of doing that. And to me, that's a huge sign for him taking another step forward because he understands what he's looking at. He may not have the arm trait talents. He may not have the strongest arm, may not be the most accurate guy, which he's plenty accurate, may not be able to fit tight window throws because he doesn't have the ball velocity to get it there. But if nothing else, he can scramble around, create plays, find the right guy, throw the ball accurately, put it on time, put it on a guy's chest, and then take off and run if there's nothing there. This whole conversation with Bo Nix and his lack of playmaking ability is just ridiculous, dude.
And then another thing here is real quick, Joe Brewer saying PFF bias confirmed. We have another conversation here that we're going to get into that I'm really going to slam about PFF bias. Phil, I'll grab your comment here in just a minute, but I wanted to grab this other one from Joe saying Mac Jones has questionable NFL level arm talent. And he did.
Okay.
Mac Jones could barely throw it 15 yards.
That's fair.
We hammered Bo Nix for his ability to really push the ball deep and throw with velocity. Mac Jones was even worse. Like Mac Jones, we were comparing to Trevor Siemian when he was coming out in terms of the ability to throw. Mac Jones has always had questionable NFL arm. And that is one thing where, despite how I questioned, Nick questioned, you questioned, all of us questioned Bo Nix, we always recognized that his arm was at least good enough to get by with.
Yeah.
Mac Jones wasn't. So not only did you have Mac Jones, a statue in the pocket, who, while he did have decent enough athleticism, he wasn't really a mobile guy, wasn't really going to threaten you with his legs, and he showed that he didn't have the arm strength to really do a whole lot with, which led to that drop-off in that second year that we got, which leads to Phil's comment here. It says, good evening, Eric and Lance. Bo is too intelligent to fall off this year, and he has much more help than he had last year, having the same O-line and now a running game. I hope this will be a great year for Bo, in my opinion. Yes. And this is another element of it. And when we're talking about Mac Jones and his fall off here, is the Patriots didn't necessarily do a lot to build around Mac Jones after that first year. Denver has had no question about it. And I have an article up about that. I have an article that's coming up about Bo Nix and his floor and ceiling that should come up tomorrow. But I have an article that I believe came up today talking specifically about what Sean Payton and George Paton did to build around Bo Nix and how him taking the next step, there's no excuse and it all falls on him. So in this, having the same offensive line, that is going to be tremendous for Bo Nix in terms of helping him maneuver around the pocket, having that chemistry and that experience built up behind the same unit, that can help with that. Having an improved running game, which I have no doubt in my mind it's going to be improved, because Denver, they had the number 1 run block win rate on the offensive line last year, according to ESPN. And one of the biggest issues was Javonte Williams and his vision.
Yep.
RJ Harvey has great vision. That was one thing that we didn't get to talk about enough pre-draft. Hell, I didn't spend a lot of time talking about RJ Harvey in general pre-draft, but that was one thing with RJ Harvey that was unquestioned with him. He had great vision. He had among the best vision in the class. He brings more explosion. So I have no doubt that they're going to have that run game for it. There's still mechanical and technical issues that Bo Nix can improve upon, but with what is around him, there's no doubt that they've done a lot for him. I think Sean Payton is a great play caller for him, because if he can sit there and play to Bo's strengths and, help Bo develop and cover up where he's maybe struggling to develop a little bit. And then Bo Nix's intelligence is definitely a part that is playing a factor in this as well. Mac Jones, there were questions that came out not long after the combine when he came out about his intelligence, with how he answered some questions in the interview portion of that. And now we have Andrew Gugu Murray coming in saying, whoever the guy in the hat has good points after the hate. But if you're rating the talent upgrade around Bo Nix, giving him give around him on offense, adding to him, creating more in the pocket. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And just to defend Lance here, the Bo Nix, being a Bo Nix hater, that's all just a joke and everything like that. He has his questions, as we all do. There are areas that Bo Nix does need to improve upon, but there is a lot to have confidence in him improving in those. And yeah, they did a lot to add around him on the offense. Evan Ingram, I think, is a lot of the focus is on RJ Harvey, but I think Evan Ingram is really the biggest addition that they made to this offense, Lance.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree with that. Evan Ingram is easily the biggest addition here, but I also want to talk about Marvin Mims a little bit. This is a guy that I was very high on in the 2021 NFL draft a couple of years ago, or 2022. Sorry, excuse me. Regardless, I was very high on Marvin Mims. Like the explosive play rate that he was able to bring, the gadget playmaking ability that he brought to the offense. It was a completely different skill set from anybody that the Broncos had. And Sean Payton has kind of tapped into that a little bit more and more and more. And we saw that with the target rate last season, escalating throughout the tail end of the season, the usage rate that they had with him. Marvin Mims is a guy that I think is poised to take a huge step forward in this offense, especially because I think that the play action game, the running game, is going to be a bigger factor this year. You will go out and you go and get an RJ Harvey, a guy that has that vision, that burst, that explosiveness, the explosive play rate, the decent receiving ability out of the backfield. You got a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who has explosive creating playmaking ability coming out of the backfield behind this offensive line, who has been healthy for 2 seasons in a row. Like I think combined in the last 2 years, the starting offensive line has only missed 5 total games. Like you're not talking about like injuries on the offensive line, terrible offensive line play up front that we saw from 2015 to 2019. It was awful up front. This offensive line, with Bo Nix's ability behind the offensive line, creating plays, dumping it down to on play action passes. You've got the screen game that Sean Payton has used very well. So the creativity in the running game. I think that what the Broncos have done around Bo Nix is actually going to help accentuate his skill set and make him a better quarterback.
Okay, now you brought up Marvin Mims, so I have a question for you. It kind of relates to what Chase Wallner says. Can Marvin develop his route running, or do you think his role stays about the same? I have a question similar to this, but do you think that Marvin can develop his route running more, or have his role stay about what it is?
So I don't think that you need to develop his route running more. I think you need to accentuate his role even more within the offense, because while I do think that he can be a better route runner in terms of learning how to run a blaze out, learning how to run a deep dig, a deep post, like stuff like that. Why are you trying to turn him into an exceptional route runner like a guy like Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders? Why not utilize his speed? Get him into space, utilize his ability to run after the catch. He was literally the number one wide receiver in the NFL in yards after the catch this last season, averaging 12.1 yards after the catch last year. So why not accentuate that?
What role do you see for Marvin Mims? Do you see it continuing to be a gadget player?
No, I think they need to use him more out of the slot. And yes, there's some gadget stuff that you can work with him, but utilizing the straight line speed. And obviously a lot of what Sean Payton likes to do is utilizing dig and post. So you're talking about a lot of mesh concepts. You're talking about a lot of dagger concepts, Mills concepts, where you got a post on the outside with a dig on the inside, or a dig on the outside with a post on the inside, creating a bunch of confusion. That's your outside receivers. That's going to be your Devon Velays. It's going to be your Pat Bryants. It's going to be your Cortland Suttons. But then you've got the crossing routes over the middle that creates the split flow confusion at the second level. Marvin Mims needs to be that opposite receiver where he's running in essentially a straight line, utilizing that speed to place the defense in conflict. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that this year. He's also going to be used, like I said last year, more as a coverage identifier, using motion to dictate where safeties are moving, how cornerbacks and linebackers are moving pre-snap. Utilizing him in that aspect is going to be a big key for this offense.
So what you just defined to me in that role is essentially a gadget player.
Okay, that's fair enough.
It's a guy who you're going to use in motion, you're going to use in certain routes, in specifically for certain situations. That's a gadget player. And the reason why I bring that up is because Bill Barnwell, I think I talked about this last week. I know I've talked about it with Nick. He has a luxury players for 2025 season for it, to which gadget player Marvin Mims. And just throw this out there, when he was lined up outside during his rookie season, he averaged let me see here. Sorry, I lost the number on it. Sorry, 2024. When he was lined up outside, he averaged 0.8 yards per route run when he was working on the boundary last year. When you remove the boundary and you make it slot and in the backfield, 5.5 yards per route run. So I still think there is a way where you're going to use him out of the backfield, where you can use him in the slot, and obviously you're still going to use him to challenge vertically. Obviously, Franklin's role, he's going to be a guy who challenges deep. He's going to be a guy that works some of the screens as well. They both can kind of fill that a little bit. I think Marvin Mims is a little bit more polished on those crossers, working the middle of the field, things like that. So it's going to be a little bit of both, and it's going to be depend on the down distance and situation they're in. But Donald, thank you for joining us. Donald's also saying, evening, everyone. Bo is mature, cerebral, and ultra competitive driven, and plays with higher power in mind, and has attracted similar people in thought. I definitely agree, and I think Sean Payton, that's part of what attracted Sean Payton to him.
Yeah.
Now, moving on, before we move on from this conversation, going back to this, we both disagree about Bo Nix's floor with John Costco of Pro Football Focus, with it being Mac Jones.
Yeah.
I think Baker Mayfield, this isn't a player comparison. This is talking about the quality of quarterback that you're getting. I think Baker Mayfield is a better floor. He's a fine starter who uses his legs well, both in the pocket and extending plays. I think Bo Nix is a little bit better accuracy, and not quite the arm talent that Baker Mayfield has, but it's not to where it's astronomically different. If we're looking at guys currently in the NFL, I think Bo Nix and Baker Mayfield, for a floor for Bo Nix, to be clear, not ceiling, for a floor, Baker Mayfield is better. But you have one that we talked about this beforehand that's not currently in the NFL, that's going back a few years, that I find pretty interesting, Lance. Why don't you get into that?
So this is more of a player-by-player comparison based on the skill set, based on what they bring as cerebral quarterbacks with lesser arm talent. And that's not to say that Bo or this player have bad arms, just can they, take a 5-step hitch and throw the backside dig or the backside out route, or, run the play action and throw the deep comeback in the Shanahan offense. But this guy also had great legs, great mobility, of the availability to escape sacks and whatnot. I'm talking about Jeff Garcia, formerly with the San Francisco 49ers. I think that's a good floor for him. He's a middle of the road quarterback, a guy that it just consistently gets overrated. But similarly speaking, Bo Nix and Jeff Garcia have great ability with their legs to extend the play. They go and they make the right reads. They get the ball out on time. They can push the ball deep if you need them to. They're not going to force the tight window throws. They can extend the play with their legs and go catch you 5, 6, 7, 8 yards if they need to. That to me is the floor for what Bo Nix should be. Jeff Garcia was never considered as a great high-end quarterback. He was more of a middle-of-the-road starter, a guy that you can win a whole lot of football games with, put him with a good running game. That's like the beginnings of the tail end of like Garrison Hurst, the beginning of Frank Gore, some Vernon Davis in there as well, Terrell Owens, like that San Francisco 49ers offense. I think that the Broncos have at least a Jeff Garcia type with Bo Nix right now, and I think that's a really good comparison.
Yeah, we're going to have to wrap it up here in just a few minutes. Paul says, great comp, Eric. I appreciate that, Paul. I'm sure that there are going to be people in the comment sections on YouTube, hit me up on Twitter and all that have issues with it. But I'm glad you think it's great, Paul. Glad to see you in. Hopefully we'll see you at the meet and greet this year, Paul. It'd be nice to finally put a face to the name.
Yeah.
After so many years of you being supportive of the show and so many years of, some back and forth on Twitter and everything like that, it'd be great to meet you and put a name to the face. As well as anybody in the chat, anybody in the comment section, anybody in part of this community.
Paul was actually one of the, if it's the right Paul, I think it's the right Paul, was one of the first people that came with a question for Dove Valley Deep Divers. This was 6 years ago, damn near, that came with a good question. That came up with a topic for us to break down and dive into. I don't remember what it was, but Paul's been around the show for a long time.
Yeah, and we have, going on to the next part of this conversation, this is where my Pro Football Focus bias rant is going to come in. I have a Steve Young. That's actually a pretty decent one.
That's a good one.
I think that's a good one for the ceiling more so
that's
than
a good ceiling. That's a really good ceiling. Great ceiling. Yep. We talked about Jake Plummer too, by the way.
Yeah, we did mention Jake Plummer. But I have no doubt in my mind that Pro Football Focus, when they write stuff, they use things to back what they've said. That they can be a little bit unopen to being wrong, which I know I'm accused of, but those around me can attest that that's not true. Part of it being I literally did articles talking about how I was wrong on things, but that's beside the point. So Pro Football Focus last year, they named Zach Allen among the worst starting interior defensive linemen. They named the defensive line, if I remember correctly, 31st out of 32nd. Now getting to this year, they ranked him 8th. That seems pretty fair, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I look over this, I think there is a conversation to have. I wouldn't necessarily do it, but I think there's a conversation to have about the defensive front. This is defensive line and edge rushers of Denver's unit being close to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, TJ Watt, he's astronomically better than whatever the Broncos have. But the Broncos are 6-7 deep on the defensive line, where you have 2 deep at edge rusher with Alex Highsmith and Watt, and Cam Hayward, who's aging. Who knows how long he has left. I'm taking rookies out of it because rookies, hey, they haven't played a snap in the NFL. We don't know what they're going to be. And so I think that there's a conversation there. The Pittsburgh Steelers were ranked 1st. Now, I think the teams that came in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, they should be 1, 2, and 3. The Philadelphia Eagles, the New York Giants, and the Houston Texans. All 3 of them have good depth, and they have star power on their unit. Something that raises them above the Steelers. The Detroit Lions, the Buffalo Bills, and the Cleveland Browns are also ahead of the Broncos. And again, taking out rookies, all the Cleveland Browns have is Myles Garrett. When you have the Detroit Lions where Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, and then a bunch of questions because, hey, Tyreek Williams, they drafted him, but he's a rookie. Again, I'm pulling rookies out because they haven't played a snap in the NFL. You have Aiden Hutchinson, who's working back from having a rod inserted into his leg, and Aleem McNeil coming back from an injury. I wouldn't put the Broncos behind them. I wouldn't put the Broncos behind the Bills because they have a lot of questions. I think they're very similar in how they're built. They don't necessarily have that star talent. I'm not considering Joey Bosa a star talent, by the way, not with playing 28 games, I think is what it was in the last 3 seasons combined. I'm not counting him as part of that 26 games, whatever it was, as part of star talent anymore. Greg Russo, he's fine. I don't think he's astronomically better than, Nick Bonito is. So I think at the very least, you're talking about 5th or 6th, maybe even 4th for the Broncos. To have him at 8, it's a little bit stupid. And the reason why I mentioned that is because John Frankenmeyers, he decided to take to Twitter about this, and he quote tweeted Pro Football Focus a picture of their ranking where he said, "Yo, who made this dumbass list?" Pardon my language on it, but I wanted to quote accurately John Frankenmeyers, and I am in agreement.
Yeah.
And you can write it off as bias. I try to be as partisan as nonpartisan as I can, non-biased as possible when it comes to evaluating the Broncos. It's why I get a lot of flack and have gotten so much flack over the years. I don't think there is a reasonable argument to have the Broncos this low, and I'm not surprised they do, because going back to their bias, going back to the whole point that I made to start it off about the people at Pro Football Focus having issues admitting they're wrong. They have consistently slammed Zach Allen throughout the season for run defense, despite other metrics, other places highlighting how him being at least a good run defender, and they're constantly slamming him for it. Well, it's almost like there's some reason as to why they got to push Zach Allen down.
Well, I think they're underrating not only the starting unit and Zach Allen in particular, who was one of the if I remember correctly, there at a point in the season, he was the number 1 interior defensive lineman in terms of creating pass pressure against quarterbacks. So there's that. He was leading the NFL in sacks and interior defensive lineman there for a long time until I believe week 9. Like the guy's a hell of a football player. John Franklin-Myers has every right to come out and question this. DJ Jones, as a nose tackle, when you play him as a direct nose tackle, may not be the best in terms of run defense, but he's a capable run defender. He may not be the best, most explosive pass rusher, but he can still at least provide that for you. You've got Malcolm Roach as a depth piece. You've got Ayoma Owazurike with a lot of potential there. That's not necessarily the greatest piece to add to it, but Savion Jones, you got a rookie. That's fine. Take it to the edge, though. You got Nick Bonito, who was, 4th in the NFL and 13.5 sacks. Jonathan Cooper was one of the best edge defenders in terms of run defense. You've got depth in Jonah Ellis, who I think has a lot of upside as a rotational pass rusher there as well. You bring in Q Robinson, another rookie, so we'll take him out of the conversation. But the 5 or 6 deep for this defensive line for the Broncos can stand up against anybody in the NFL. And to have them ranked 8th right now, like, sure, the Lions with Aiden Hutchinson, and you've got Ali McNeil. They brought back Ayoma Owazurike. What depth do they have there? I don't know. I don't know anybody on the depth for that team right now. I'm not following the Lions like that, but still, to rate this Broncos defensive line as low as they have them right now, when you have 4 guys up front that should be making $15, $16, $17 million a season as the top. So DJ Jones make what? $13 million. Zach Allen should be making 20, 24, 25. Jonathan Franklin-Myers. Keep proving my point here.
I know.
Yeah. Like John Franklin-Myers should be making 17, 18, 19, 20 million dollars. Yeah. Like, come on, guys. Nick Bonito, and I have my concerns about Nick Bonito. I do. But Jonathan Cooper just got a huge deal at $15 million a season. This team is built in the right way, and they do such a great job with what Vance Joseph calls for their pressure packages. They're so versatile. You can line them up pretty much anywhere along the defensive front, create so many different looks, and for them to be completely and totally effective, no matter how they line up, to have them at 8th, this is a top 5, and they're not 5 defensive line in the NFL.
Yeah. Brian Dunn came in with the $20 donation. Thank you, Brian. We appreciate that. Had nothing to say this time. MBLE came in a little bit late, saying I'm here to party. Ralph saying I'm late to the party, and catch it on Apple Podcast tomorrow. Thanks for your off-season dedication. Hopefully you leave a 5-star review for a chance to win some gear, not swag, every single month. I hate saying swag. Absolutely hate it. Anyways, we have also MBLE Test Prep saying JFM the GOAT and PFF are GOATs. Yeah, they're quite bad. if you ask me. Get it? Pretty clever, if you ask me. I might be biased on that one. But speaking of bias, just to show that I'm not doing it. Well, actually, I'm not doing it just to show it. I said this in last before we went live. The other thing is they rank the linebacker core, and they have the Denver Broncos ranked 11th, and that's too high for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's too high. Dre Greenlaw's a great addition, but we don't know. We have questions about his health. He played 34 snaps last year after tearing his Achilles in the Super Bowl. Not this last one, obviously, but the one before. We are not sure what he's going to be. Alex Singleton, he's going to be 32 in December. He's coming off a Achilles injury or ACL injury. We don't know what he's going to be. And despite in it, and I quote, Denver has young depth in Drew Sanders and Justin Cernod. I wouldn't consider either of those guys young depth. Justin Cernod is going to be 30, I think, here in August, maybe 29. Drew Sanders has to make the team first. I doubt he makes the team. There's been a lot of questions raised about if he has it above the neck, if you catch my drift. The athleticism there. I think this is a ranking where after the season, we can look back and 11th be fair. But when you have some medical questions, as much as you do with your two starters, and if they can return to form, and even then, Alex Singleton, he's not a great linebacker. He's a liability in coverage, and he's not that great in run defense outside the tackles. Great between the tackles. Outside the tackles, you run to a little bit more hiccups with it. 11th for me right now is a little bit too rich just because you have those medical concerns. If Dre Greenlaw is back to the caliber that he was 2 seasons ago in 2023, 2022, then yes, 11th actually might be a little too low because he is one of the best linebackers in the NFL when he is healthy. He's probably top 5 linebackers in the NFL when he is healthy, if he is able to play at that level again. But can he? That is the question, Lance. Before I hand it off to you, we have Daniel Cross also coming in with some stars. Thank you, Daniel. We really appreciate that. Nothing to say, but if you have something to say, go ahead and get it in real quick while Lance chats, and then we'll get to it before we get out of here. Lance, what about the linebacker rankings?
I agree with you 100%. And first and foremost, Justin Cernod turns 28 years old on August 21st. So going into 28-year-old season. He was a young draft pick 6 years ago, something like that. Regardless, it doesn't
29.
Matter. I just pulled it up on Google. 28 years old, August 21st, 1996. So apparently we got misinformation.
He turned 29 on August 21st.
Okay. Sorry. My bad. I can't count. Go figure. I say something stupid on a podcast and we all laugh at Lance. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Anyways, so 29 years old, doesn't matter. He's more of a special teams player to begin with anyways.
And we know what he is on defense.
Right? Exactly. Like it's a guy that's a serviceable backup, a serviceable
but still a liability.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Drew Sanders, we have no idea what this kid is. Not a chance. He missed all last season with a torn Achilles. Coming back this season, he's going to see he saw a little bit of time last year. He's going to see a lot more time this year. Hopefully he turns into the player that everybody thought was potentially a first-round pick coming out of Arkansas as a hybrid edge linebacker role player. Like there's so many questions. The injury concerns, the lack of depth, the lack of reliable depth, the lack of a reliable, consistent starting ability at the starters. Dre Greenlaw, like you said, played 34 snaps last season. When he was healthy a couple years ago, you said what? Top 5 linebacker? Top 3, maybe the best linebacker in the NFL, not named Fred Warner. Like the guy has that kind of talent.
Yeah,
he absolutely does. He has coverage versatility. He can drop back. He can play man-to-man. He can fill in the run. He can run and chase. He's a great scrape through the garbage type of player. If he can get back to that, sure, I'm right there with you. 11's too high right now, though, based on all the questions. I think 19, 20, 21 is probably where this linebacker group should be ranked right now. But if you're basing everything on projection, 11 might be about right. Could be way too low, though. Like I agree with you 100%. It all depends on how Alex Singleton looks coming off of a torn ACL. And by the way, guys, he tore that ACL against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and played the rest of the game before he actually was sidelined. So he shows the physical toughness. He shows the ability to go out there and do it. Dre Greenlaw coming off that torn Achilles, yeah, he was fine to play. These guys have major injury concerns, and that is a big problem for the middle half of the secondary.
Now, you kind of touched on it, and I just want to get into this before we get out of here with Drew Sanders. He played 20 snaps last year. He picked up 1 sack, which was his first snap back. He blitzed up the middle and blitzed the A gap against the Chargers, got that sack. He also missed the tackle on those 20 snaps, not great. He did pick up 3 stops. He had a couple good plays in there, but he also was he allowed every target, which was only 2 to be caught, 8 yards apiece. So like the question is, does he have it up above the neck? And when you go watch him in coverage, he looked lost, even in the limited time that he had. In his 12 snaps of coverage last year, he looked lost. And that's not something that you want. And just because they've settled him down as a linebacker doesn't mean he's suddenly going to pick up the defense. This is the same defense that he's been in his whole career so far. So the fact that to end the season last year, he's looking lost in coverage doesn't make me confident that he's going to be able to pick things up and understand his role and everything like that, especially with a lot of stuff that's that I've been heard about him having to be told pretty explicitly what he's supposed to do on the field before he goes out there on the field, or by a teammate if he gets caught out there on the field. I really question Drew Sanders' viability of sticking around on this roster. What kept him around what was keeping him around obviously was the injury, trying to bet on that, and special teams play. He showed a lot of potential on special teams even last year, because he did come back on special teams prior to that and did well, but he's been replaced on special teams. Q Robinson has replaced him. So I wouldn't be counting Drew Sanders in that equation whatsoever.
My one question here with Drew Sanders, just quickly, being on the field and like seeing it on paper, being on the field, 2 completely different things. Maybe understanding your assignment is one thing, executing it can be something completely different. Not understanding your depth of your drop, looking lost and stuff like that. Yeah, you can understand what you're supposed to do on paper. Executing it on the field in your first action back, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for a minute, but at the same time, I still have the same question. I'll give you I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You're coming back from an injury. You're playing the tail end of the season. Your first action back. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but still, you should know. You should know what your assignment is, and he still continued to look lost and completely out of position.
He wasn't asked to do anything complicated in coverage, and still wasn't dropping into the proper spots. I am not giving him the benefit of the doubt because with him coming back from injury it being his first action back. For that reason, if it was more complicated coverage, maybe. But it was very simple zone drops, and he wasn't dropping in properly. US Dave coming in saying, I don't know why Broncos community even acknowledged PFF except to complain. Exactly why, to complain. No, as content creators, both written and doing shows during this time of year, we have to have something to converse about. And Pro Football Focus, if there's one thing that they're good for, it's giving us something to talk about, whether it be positive or negative. And it gives us a chance to go to bat for our team and raise up concerns with our team and all sorts of stuff like that. So they're at least good for giving us something to talk about, which is very difficult during this time. And it's going to be really difficult over the next few weeks until training camp starts. But that's going to have to do it for us today. As I said at the start of the show, I do need to get out of here. I got to go hit some stores up and get some stuff for my kiddo's birthday. Can't believe she's turning 8 on Sunday.
Good.
So she's super excited for that. We have some family coming down and stuff. So got to go get stuff for her and get stuff taken care of that. So we're going to be jumping out of here. And also, as I said, we definitely won't be here next Friday. Maybe we can get Chad to approve us going on Saturday. But no matter what, I hope you guys have a wonderful July 4th. I hope you guys stay safe and don't drink and drive. Lance, I saw your finger. You had something to say?
Yeah, we got a super chat coming in here from Brian Dunn a little bit ago, and I want to grab this and make sure we don't leave you out in the cold. It's a $20 super chat. Nothing to say, just showing some love. But we definitely appreciate you for joining the show, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you got any comments, make sure you guys get into the comment section on YouTube. Get at us on Twitter. Find us on Facebook. Like we definitely appreciate it. And Brian, off the top rope, thank you so much, man. We definitely appreciate you, buddy.
100%. Boo, Iowa. Even though I do shows with twice every morning with Nick nowadays, still boo Iowa. He will never get me to come around on anything other than that. But anyways, guys, that's going to have to do it for us tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I hope you guys stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Even with holidays, like next Friday, being July 4th, never drink and drive. Put your life at risk. Puts other people's lives at risk. Just don't do it. Call a cab. Find a designated driver. Call an Uber. Whatever it is. It's definitely cheaper than the alternative. With that. So anyways, have a wonderful weekend. Oh, gotta do all their other stuff too. Almost forgot about it. You guys, Take a matter of like 15 seconds to make sure you guys do this. Subscribe, like, and share no matter what platform you're on YouTube, on Facebook, listening afterwards on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whatever the case may be. Subscribe, liking, and sharing it is one thing that helps us so much with the algorithm, which is ever changing and ever frustrating and giving us headaches. If you are listening after the fact on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave a 5-star review for a chance to win some gear, not swag. I hate saying swag every single month. You can follow us on Instagram at MileHighHuddle with an underscore between mile and high and huddle, where clips of each of the shows go out. Make sure you guys are also liked and subscribed and all that on Instagram. I don't personally Instagram, even though I have an account. But you guys can also reach out to us on there. You guys can, if you guys do have the opportunity, even though I know that times can be tough with the way things are in the world right now, you can guys go to mhhmerch.com to get your gear on. Again, swag. I hate saying swag. And you guys can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/MileHighHuddlePod, at facebook.com/MileHighHuddle. And there's another one whose name I always escapes me. I got to write it down and just put it on a sticky note on my shelf by me. But you guys make sure you're following us on Facebook. You can follow us on X or Twitter, whatever it is you want to call it, at MileHighHuddle, at DVDD_pod, and at the MHH Pod. You guys can access to all of our written content and all the shows on there. And this is one of the many podcasts that we do every single night, except for Saturdays right now, of the Dove Valley. And this is the Dove Valley Divers of the Mile High Huddle Podcast Network. Thank you guys for joining in. Again, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Hope you guys stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Have a wonderful 4th of July. Don't drink, don't drive. Lance, before we get out of here, any final words?
No, just going to echo. Don't drink and drive. Please, guys, be safe on the 4th. Hopefully, we'll see you guys next Saturday. We're going to talk about that after the fact. But no, it's always fun to talk Broncos with everybody. It's always fun to get away from the real world for a little while. So thank you guys for joining us. We definitely appreciate the love and support. And without you guys' support, we couldn't do what we do best, which is cover your guys' Denver Broncos, our Denver Broncos. So you all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, go Broncos.
Yep. If you're somewhere where they do fireworks, watch out for your pets. Unfortunately, it hurts their ears and all of that.
Be respectful of veterans too. Be respectful of veterans too.
Not just veterans, but other people who may have sensitivity to sound. I am one of those people. Fireworks are very difficult for me because they are very loud and they hurt my ears. One of those things, sounds sensitivity, despite me being a loud person. Sound and light, honestly, are two things for me. But anyways, that's beside the point. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Hope you guys stay safe. Don't drink and drive. As I said, have a wonderful 4th of July. Repeating all this because I have my own standard way of doing this. And as always, as Nick always says, every single morning, every single Tuesday night, make sure you guys are choosing kindness and compassion. I will be back on Wednesday or on Monday morning, bright and early with Nick Kendall on the Broncos for breakfast, and maybe next Saturday with Lance for Dove Valley Divers. We'll let you know. You can follow us on Twitter to make sure and catch that. Have a wonderful weekend. And as always, go Broncos.